Well, the coalition entered the election campaign with confidence. Its numbers were revealing that the party was ahead in seats in Victoria and also in Queensland. But as we all can see now, the results of the election turned out to be very different from what the coalition had been expecting. Let's bring you more analysis on the polls now. I'm joined by political scientist Simon Jackman. Simon, this internal tracking polling that was being used by the coalition, it sounds like it was way off the mark.
Yeah, it does. So Freshwater's public poll that we saw looks like it's overestimating coalition support across the whole country. And that's what's in the public domain, right? I can only speak to that on the coalition side, at least. That was off by 5 percentage points, right? And that's way outside sampling error. That's a big miss. Now, I understand there may be strategic arguments, to put, the best light on your polling you can for your client in what you're putting out for public consumption. But generally, A, that's dangerous, and B, the trend argument as well, I think, Ash, is a really important one. I know for a fact that polling on the other side for Labor did pick up the trend over the course of the campaign. It's probably come up short on the level where Labor finally got to. But I just don't know enough about what Freshwater was seeing inside Freshwater. But I can point to their what they put out in public, and look, they didn't have the trend. And if anything, it's a huge, mistake to put your final poll to have the coalition on 37 first preference when it's going to end up being 31 or something, 32 even.
So, Simon, when we look back at the published polls, how did most of them fare? I mean, did they give an accurate picture of what was going on, do you think? It's always nice, isn't it, to look back at this in hindsight?
Here's what they did get right. They got right Labor coming off the canvas in late January, February, through particularly the start of the campaign, which was dominated by the Trump explosion. All the public polls, though, or the average of them, tended to stabilise. That big movement to Labor was really concentrated in that opening week or week and a half of the campaign, following up a trend that had started roughly right around when the RBA cut rates. It seemed that was when Labor hit its bottom and a recovery through the first part of the year. But all the public polling had it plateauing, right? Now, if you continue that trend that they picked up early in the campaign, you probably get, on average, this is the average of the polls, you probably end up at the right place. But I think what happened is that a lot of polls started to say the Labor Party's recovery in vote has stabilised. And to some extent that was true. What the polls didn't pick up was the continuing fall in the coalition vote. And I think that's probably the story we want to understand a little bit better. It is, I think, in no small measure, the story of the campaign. I think the more people were exposed to Peter Dutton and the campaign messages from the coalition, the less they liked. And I think then the question is, why couldn't the public polling at least pick that up, other than the 2-point bump we all picked up, all the public polls picked up, say, January through to the start of the campaign.
So, Simon, just explain for us what the key challenges are in modern polling and how much trust we should really have in that process.
Ash, well, how much time you got? I'll try and keep this short. The industry is a very low margin business, right? There's no one out there making a lot of money from public opinion polling, and it is a race to find technologies that you can deliver polls cheaply, or as cheap as your competition, right? And that's pushed a lot of polling to online panels where people sign up to take surveys on the internet in exchange for things like flybys and things like that. Quality control in that environment is atrocious, to be perfectly blunt. It is a massive challenge. And the best online panels, and I know YouGov is telling a story about how well they did. There's some nuance to that, shall we say. But maintaining high quality web panel polling starts to erode your cost advantage, number one. And a lot of pollsters are driven to quite low-cost web polling, where for all we know, they are backpackers sitting in a youth hostel somewhere, punching those surveys, and multiple households, multiple respondents from the same household, people speeding through the survey so they can take another one and earn yet more flybys or whatever it might be. The internal polling done by the parties uses live phone interviewers, and that is extraordinarily expensive, but that is what high quality polling looks like. And media organizations in particular that are commissioning the public polls in the main just aren't willing to pay the budgets that are required to do. If I wanted to do 1,500 national by phone, you're talking 45, 50,000, actually might even be closer to $100,000. The media organizations are not going to spend that kind of money every fortnight on a poll. So a lot of the public polling is this much cheaper, much faster, and I'm afraid much lower quality polling that has all sorts of biases. And what happens then is the analyst judgment, or someone like me, is brought in to sort of try and rehabilitate these data. And at that point, we're not using the fundamentals of statistics anymore, like random sampling. We're relying on an awful lot of judgment calls by analysts to try and fix what they think might be wrong with these data. And you can very easily end up chasing your own tail. You can end up looking over your shoulder at what the opposition is doing and perhaps driving yourself to a false consensus about where the election might be going. Whereas I think there's no substitute. And indeed, I know for a fact inside the Labor Party, the money is spent, a lot of money is spent to acquire higher quality phone polling data out of 20 marginal seats over the course of the campaign. That's the only way the pros do it. It's just something that media organizations are willing to pay for.
Simon Jackman, fascinating to hear your insights. Really appreciate you making the time. Thank you.
Thank you.